Okay, solve the equation. 2x to the second power minus 1x minus 7 equals 0. So there's two answers for x, okay? Now you're back to having x to the second and x to the first, okay? You need to factor, okay? You're back to having to use your factoring properties. So that's this. You check for the 0. You count your terms on the other side. There's 3. So you have GCF and the T-chart. All these are 3 terms. You don't need to pull out that thing that says 2, 3, 4. You'd still need it, but you don't need to pull it, yank it out. Okay, so my GCF, okay, I do not have X at the end. Doesn't look like I have a negative in the front. 2, 1, and 7's 1, so no, not going to do it. So ABC. 2 times negative 7, okay? So that's going to be negative 14. That's a mismatch. So, positive, negative, and we need to add to try to somehow get to negative 1. Okay, so I divide. Now, 14, something weird's going to happen here. 14 divided by 1 is 14. I think when I add these, that's way extreme for what we're looking for, okay? 14 divided by 2 is 7. That is still too extreme. It's a little bit closer, but it's not on the money. Then we get, 14 times 3 is a decimal. Decimal. Decimal, decimal, 7 and 2. I already have 7 and 2. Don't repeat the same factor pair, okay? Don't do that. If you're running the same factor pair, that means you're not going to be able to find it. And that's fine. That does happen. It hasn't yet. When this happens, I want you to put the initials QF over that. That means you will not be factoring it into parentheses. You will be using what's known as the quadratic formula. Now this looks like a very intimidating formula, okay? You can see the B, it's up. There's a song that's going to help you remember the quadratic formula, and I'm going to sing it right here on camera. Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. When I say the word squared, that means second power, okay? I'm going to say it again. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. Okay. Now, so you're going to make a big line, you're going to put a plus minus sign right there, okay, kind of closer to this side. And you're just going to copy that down. You're going to put opposite of b, and the plus minus is there, and then put your square root, and you're just going to write that in, okay, just trust me on this. Okay, and then 2a. Alright, now you're going to cross out the variables and put them in. So opposite of b, you don't put x's in this, just the numbers. So the opposite of the negative 1 switches to positive 1. If you want to put positive 1, go for it. Okay, it's just 1 though. Now in the square root, b squared, so you're going to put negative 1 in for b. Then 4a is 2. And then c is negative 7. Okay, and then a is 2. Now, you make your plus minus sign, okay, and circle it so you know where you're at. Before it, you have a 1. It's a positive 1. You can just put 1. Now, underneath, fill in the underneath part first. I mean, that's just 2 times 2. We know that's 4. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to make your square root first you're going to figure out what goes inside, because I have a ton of stuff going on. So I'm going to go parentheses -1, close it, take it to the second power like we saw yesterday, and then -4, 2, -7. It does the order of operations for you. It's 57. Now you don't just put 57 there. You need to find the square root of the value 57. So second, then the key next to the 7, 57. 7.55. So you're going to be putting 7.55 after the plus minus sign. So plus minus, you had a 1 in front. 2 times 2 is 4. And I figured out that square root just now. Okay. Remember the first way I taught you to do the square root yesterday. This piggybacks off what we did yesterday. If you didn't enter it all in, you take -1 to the second. That means -1 times itself. That's 1. And then after the minus, you have 4 times 2 times -7. Which is, that's -56. And then 1 plus, so that's 57. Calculator just makes it go a little faster. Now, you got to be smart how you get the answers. Now, you punch in 1, and first you're going to put plus, and you're going to put 7.55. Do not hit divided by 4 on the same screen. You need to equal, then hit divided by 4. 2.14, just rounded to 2 decimal places. These are irrational answers. That's why you weren't getting the answer off the chart. Then you take 1 minus 7.55 and then divide by 4. -1.64. So then you go back and do minus. That's why it says plus minus. Okay, next problem. 3x to the second power minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. We have x to the second. We have x. We need to factor. Okay. So, check it. You're set. So 3 terms. Okay, there's no x, there's no negative, and then it'd just be 1. 3, 5, and 1 are only in row 1. So A, B, C. 3 times 1 is 3, okay? It is positive 3, so it's a match. Now I have to add to -5, okay. So then maybe a match. 3 divided by 1 is 3. Okay, right away, I know this isn't going to work, okay, because not only is that's below what I'm looking for, you know what I'm saying? It's not too extreme, like I said in the last problem. Right away, the first 2 factors are, not only they're extreme, they crossed over what I'm looking for. So, cross that out and it's QF, okay? You're never going to find it. So don't just sit there and mess around. So again, remember up here, it was extreme, so then it got closer, and then I never found it, okay? All right, so that means is basically you can't factor this. You can't put it in factored form, so you need a plan B. X equals opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a. Okay, so opposite of b, you need to switch that -5 to +5 here. Okay, that's the only one that switches opposite. And then b again, but now we put in the actual -5. 4, and then a is 3, and c is 1. And then a here is 3. Okay, so line that up. So here's your plus minus. You have 5 in front. Now, we'll figure out what we have behind it later, because that's the square root. 2 times 3 on the bottom is 6. Okay. All right, now make your square root, and you got to figure out what the actual value is that's inside of that. So Negative 5 to the second. Remember, put parentheses around them. The parentheses don't go away. The numbers just fill them. 4, 3, and 1. Remember the second power right there. Okay. 13. Okay. Or wait a second, I didn't do that right. That's not even close. Okay. Or yeah, 13's right. You put 13 here. Okay. Alright, so I find the square root of the number 13. Second square root 13, 3.61. So that's what don't forget to square root it. You don't just put 13 there. You need to find the square root of 13. 5 plus 3.61, click equals, then divide by 6. 1.44, okay. If you leave it 4.3, I'm not going to be mad. Now 5 minus 3.61, click equals, and divide by 6. Don't try to divide on the same screen. 0.23. Okay. 2 more. Okay, we have negative 5x to the second power plus 10x plus 5 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. Okay. You have x second, you have x, so you have to factor. Okay, so you're set. Now, we're going to do GCFT. We're actually going to do a GCF on this one. Okay, you'll see why here in a moment. Okay, you don't have x. You still want to use the same rules. Okay, you don't want to just not follow the game plan. Okay, you do have a negative, and then 5, 10, and 5. Well, those are both in the 5th row, so we have a negative 5. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 5, but not by x, so the x second and the x will stay the way they are. 1x second, negative 2x, and negative 1. Okay, so bring that over just like you always do. ABC. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Okay, so it's a mismatch. So positive and a negative. It's got to add to negative 2. Well, 1 divided by 1 is 1. Yeah, that's 0, so that's already under the, it's not extreme, it's too narrow, okay? So, if you're too narrow right away, that means it's a QFer, okay? Quadratic formula is what that stands for. Okay, so plus or minus, opposite of B, plus or minus, the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4, squared means second power, minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. So here's my ABC, so switch your b to opposite to positive 2. By the way, if you know you're using this formula because you can't find it on the table, you don't need to do anything with that negative 5. Okay, history. Not that I do anything with it anyway because it doesn't have an x. And then the b. That's going to be actually negative 2. And then A here is 1. And C here is negative 1. So your A is going to be 1. Okay? So clean the stuff up. Okay? Here's your plus minus. So in front of it, you know you're going to have a 2. Don't know what you're going to have after it, but below it, you know you got 2 times 1. That's 2. Now, square root. Figure out the value. So you go parentheses negative 2, second power, minus 4, 1, negative 1, just like that. I got 8, but don't put 8 here. You have to evaluate the square root of 8. It's an irrational number. So 2.83. Now you're like, isn't that supposed to be positive, negative? Yeah, it is, but I already have that right here. Okay. Okay, so you take 2 plus 2.83, click equals, then divide by 2. 2.42 or 41. Then 2 minus 2.83, divide by 2, negative 0.42. If you put 41, that's fine. I don't really care. Okay, last problem. 3x to the second power plus 7x plus 3 equals 0. So based on this assignment, we're going to hit a snag where the t-chart, I won't be able to find it. Okay? So factor. So you are set 3 terms. GCF, okay. Table. There's no x, there's no negative 3, 7, and 3 is 1, okay. Okay, so you take 3 times 3, that's 9. It's positive, so that is a match. It's got to add to positive 7, okay. So 9 divided by 1 is 9. Okay, that's too extreme, so we'll keep going, okay. 9 divided by 2 is a decimal, so let's not do that. 9 divided by 3. Negative 6, that's not too extreme anymore. It went over what I'm looking for, okay? So when it crosses from extreme to over the line of what you're looking for, you know right away you're never going to find it. It's QF. Okay, so you know I added these, I got negative 10. Well, that's too extreme for what I'm looking for. Then I did the next pair, and that wasn't too extreme. That crossed the line, okay? It's like a line. You're drawing a line in the sand there. Okay, so opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. Okay, so the opposite of b, positive 7, so you switch that to a negative 7. But that's the only one you switch to opposite. The rest are just filled in with their actual values. B is 7. 4 is always there. A is 3. C is 3. And then 2 is always down there. That's part of the formula. The 4 and the 2 are part of the formula. Okay, so if you're wondering where you're getting those, they're in the formula every time. Okay. And then A is 3. Okay. So plus minus. So here's my plus minus. In front of it you have negative 7. Under it, 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, now we got to find what comes after it by evaluating the square root. So you can just plug that expression in. 7 to the second minus 4, 3, and 3. 13. Okay, find the square root of 13. So second square root, 13, 3.61. Okay, so negative 7 plus 3.61 equals, then divide by 6, negative 0.57. Then negative 7 minus 3.61. Click equals, don't divide on the same screen. Divided by 6, negative 1.77. Okay, so this is what we go to in the t-chart we can't find. It crosses over the line.